I would like, this is Mayor Tom Mackin, I'd like to call the City Council meeting of April 21st, 2020 to order, so I ask for a roll call.
And if you could let us know if you are present or calling from home. So with that, the roll call, Ms. Moore. Ms. Moore currently is not on the line at the moment.
She said she was calling in, so.
Anyone? Or
So, I'll go on.
Warren?
Mr. Cool.
Anyone?
I'm here, Councilman Coleman participating via phone.
Ms. Maternity.
Councilwoman Materney, present, participating by phone.
Thank you. Mr. Matusek.
Here.
Mr. McCarthy.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Councilman Smith is present.
Mr. Van.
Here.
Ms. Moore, to try you one more time.
I will go on. If you're able, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So how do we want to handle Miss Bourne? I mean, when she's ready, she's
Yeah, that's the point.
No,
Councilwoman Bourne, when you log in, and we'll try and reach out to her to state your presence. Well, we probably don't have minutes from the council meeting yet. Our minutes were relatively short, I'm sure, but we'll have those prepared for the next meeting.
I'm going to join you in 20 minutes.
Okay, no special reports. I think she's having some issues. She's trying to get on. Okay. Well, we'll wait to take any action items. Letter of communication and citizens concern.
I did receive a communication from a resident, and I will discuss it on the President's Council report, if that's acceptable with everyone.
Just a quick discussion and possible send something to the committee to have further discussion. Very good, thank you.
This is Councilman Corey Coleman. I have a citizen reach out to me, but I will address that in other business if I can get a chance.
Very good, thank you. All right. Administrative reports. I have a statement to read. First, it kind of starts with some broad thanks. I would like to start by thanking and applauding the Perrysburg community for your cooperation and patience during this public health emergency. Your actions to stay home and practice social distancing when you do have to go out have been a tremendous positive impact, so thank you. I would especially like to thank the city of Perrysburg's employees, all of whom have courageously stepped up and continue to serve this community with real commitment. I am internally, and I'm sure council is as well, eternally grateful for the dedication to the city and the community. I would also like to thank all the people in the private sector who have continued to serve as essential employees. Those individuals are on the front line, keeping the economy and this community moving. Please remember to thank those individuals for their bravery and courage. I would also like to thank everyone who has continued to support our local businesses. I appreciate your efforts to support local restaurants and shops. Please continue to support this community by ordering takeout, delivery, and by shopping online at local stores. Thank you likewise to all local businesses who have stepped up during the public crisis to support the community and their employees. This sense of community has been instrumental in Perrysburg's past and will continue to be crucial for our future success. As spring continues to bloom around us, we must stay vigilant in our efforts. It will be tempting to get out of the house and socialize with friends and family as the weather improves, but we must continue to be patient and practice staying at home and social distancing. The virus is real. It is among us. It has impacted the city and this community. My thoughts and prayers are with the families who have been impacted by this horrendous virus. Collaboration, cooperation, and personal responsibility are the keys to success moving forward. Remember, we are all in this together. The city is aware of the financial struggles that many are experiencing during this difficult time. The city administration is recommending the city council authorize the city to waive fees on utility bill payments for the month of May and June. This will be through a motion by council. This recommendation has been developed with the cooperation of city council, and I look forward to its cooperation on this and other issues as we move forward to best serve the residents. The city has extended the deadline for filing tax returns until July. Consistent with that change, city administration is reviewing and extending the public health emergency we'll have on financial and how it's best to proceed. The city does have a very solid financial footing pursuant to a long history of cooperation between city council and city administration to act in a fiscally conservative manner. This cooperation is demonstrated by a record of city administrations recommending to city council and council approving budgets that fund the rainy day fund, as well as paying off long-term debt as quickly as possible so it's not a burden to the city during a crisis such as this. I look forward to continuing to work with city council to best plan for the future of Perrysburg during this crisis. The city administration also continues to be in communication with federal, state, county, and local governments and administrative agencies. Information exchange between these groups has been helpful to the overall success Ohio has achieved in planning and extending the curve. We will continue those efforts and provide information to the community as quickly and as clearly as possible as we can. Finally, I want the community to know that city leadership is here for you. Contact members of city council or the city administration if you have a question or concern. We will continue to operate and will continue to be here to help those in need. If we work together and do our part, I am confident we can continue to go through this challenging time together. Stay well and stay positive, Perrysburg. Thank you very much. City Administrator.
Excuse me, this is Councilwoman Bourne, and I don't recall ever hearing the call to order, the roll call, or the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi, Councilwoman Bourne. We started at 6:30 and we understood there was some technical difficulty at your end.
I called and said I was going to be calling in.
Okay, well, we just became aware of that. I appreciate that. Those steps were all taken. So you really haven't missed nothing other than we'll acknowledge you are here present. And you did miss an item, but nothing of substance was discussed.
Good evening, everybody. This is City Administrator Bridget Cabot, and I just wanted to let council and those who are participating via phone or listening in the meeting to let you know what city services are still being provided and how they're being provided. And hopefully I'm speaking clear enough into the microphone that Mr. Einfelder is happy on the other end there. So pretty much every single office and department is functioning. I would say 100% capacity, but to the best of their ability using various methods and means, whether it be telecommuting, whether it be different shifts at the office and or out in the field. So utilities is outperforming water taps in areas that they can perform them safely. They're doing sewer checks, sanitary sewer flushing. They're doing setting water meters. They're servicing customers who experience breaks and disruptions in service. So we're continuing to proceed along those lines as best we can. In our service department, we continue to mow, weed, trim, pick up trash both in our parks and in residential areas. We are looking, we have a street sweeper out every single day this week. We're looking to bring people in on the weekends, looking to add crews that can go out and start patching potholes and doing it from a safe distance. So we're continually changing our schedules and our shifts in that particular department. And as we continue on down the road, we understand what the governor will be opening up new businesses back into their capacity, what that means to us, what it means to be prepared for. So we're continually working with our department and division heads on how they're going to modify their schedules going forward, and also being mindful of our expenditures. We are making sure that any of our purchases are being put off to the future, so we understand what our revenue stream looks like, both user fee revenue stream, the utilities, and our general fund funded departments, such as fund, fire, income tax. So we're very aware. We're going to keep moving along. Our planning and zoning department is out there. They're working at different shifts of the day and some in the evening to make sure that they're social distancing. Our finance department is coming in on a shift. Law director is working mainly telecommuting. or video conferencing consistently throughout the day with myself and others. HR is working from home for the most part, but is coming in as needed to retrieve files and process paperwork. So we're trying to make it as business as usual as we can. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Bridget, what, in this building, what offices are open?
There are no offices in the municipal building that are open to the public.
Okay.
So what we have done is we've set up, we've only got our drop box for the tax department, which is out in the atrium. So that is still open and available. It's checked multiple times a day. And we've noted for departments such as the planning and zoning department and signs out there and information that are directing people, whether they be developers or regular citizens who have permits, requests to drop off or plans to drop off, to utilize the drop box for tax. And they're coming in multiple times a day, sorting out that information that's in there, getting it to the appropriate department, and then acting on it.
Okay. Finance Director?
Ms. Cabot, I do have a question for you. This is Councilwoman Deborah Bourne. What I'm wondering is the administration building going to be cleaned thoroughly for appropriate measures because of the coronavirus?
The building is currently being cleaned daily. We do have a limited amount of staff that is in here on a rotating basis, but that doesn't happen Monday through Friday.
Okay, but is there going to be a deep cleaning done to the building so it's safe for people to enter and leave?
We every day, sure that people are safe, that surfaces are white. In addition to that outside cleaning company that we do have coming in daily, each department and office that is utilizing their space currently have hand sanitizer and wipes that they can utilize on their own surfaces and doorknobs that they touch.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Finance Director, report.
Okay, no report, but we do need to talk about, I think most everybody's aware, in normal circumstances, we would be having our joint meeting with township trustees regarding the cemetery, usually comes the first meeting in May, but given the state of current events, I think we all pretty much decided we'll just kind of push that back. I did reach out to Gary Britton today and talk to him. He was in complete agreement that, we'll get to it when we can. I leave that up to you. We'll talk about this going forward whenever we feel it's appropriate to do so. We'll schedule a meeting and get together and dot those I's and cross those T's.
Are there any terms that would expire if we don't?
We don't have until the first of the year.
Okay.
We need to appoint somebody to the board they'll take off the first of the year. There's also we need to approve the 0.32 mils property tax levy, and that would have to be done before I think September. So there's things we need to do, but there's time to do it. Now the revised code says to have this meeting, the first meeting in May, but I think as long as we take care of it, I think we're okay. So for the moment, we're just kind of putting it on an indefinite hold, and I think we'll all just kind of, I know Jonathan's been talking to Gary too, and I think when you guys decide it's appropriate, we'll schedule a meeting and we'll take care of it at that point.
For the new council members who haven't been here for these joint meetings, this council chambers gets pretty full with all the elected officials between the two entities, as well as the board for the cemetery here. So hopefully we can have a better idea once we know what's going to happen after May 1st and what the new orders are going to be coming from the governor. Maybe we can even look at doing it virtual to a certain extent. I know that there may be some difficulties with that, but maybe we can look towards the end of May or even the first week of June, just before one of the council meetings.
That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Dave. Director of Law?
No report.
Thank you. President of Council?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a few things to mention here. Yeah, thank you, Jim. Jonathan Smith, the President of Council, just have a few things to add in here. I would like to recognize and thank our Perrysburg first responders, as well as the employees of the Service Department, Public Utilities, IT, and the rest of the administration staff of the city that have continued to show up to work throughout this COVID-19 epidemic. All of their dedication to this community has not gone unnoticed, and you also be proud of yourself for the wonderful job that the staff of the city as well as the administration has done in keeping the gears of the city moving. I would also like to thank our residents in the medical field who have also continuously risked their well-being, doing their best to help those who need it most. It would also behoove me not to mention our businesses and residents who have worked in every other essential business, from our grocery stores, our residents, offices, etc., that have remained open to maintain some sense of normalcy. All of you are greatly appreciative for all you've done during this quarantine, and I can say that our community has exhibited exemplary virtues of unity and courage during this time. You guys, it's been an honor to serve the city through this. I think everyone has come together very well to work together to find the common solution. So, just a quick thank you on that.
President Smith, I have a couple things. If I could add, it's sort of off a little bit off that direction, but adds to it.
Can I have a couple other things to add real quick, Councilwoman Bourne, if you don't mind, then I'll give you up. One thing that I did want to make mention of, as the mayor had mentioned regarding the late fees for the water department. So I would like to make a motion at this time to waive the application and collection of late fees associated with the city water and sewer bills issued during the months of May and June to help those who are in financial need.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Maternity,
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then one other thing I wanted to note as well, I did receive a communication from a resident, actually a couple residents here recently, regarding the natural screening of arbs and trees and bushes within the community that fall under the 6-foot requirements from some landscapers that they were talking with. And they mentioned that if you were to cut some of those to that 6 feet height, that there would be some permanent damage to those trees, and that would take away from it. So what I'm hoping is that the Planning and Zoning Committee may be able to look into that and find a little bit more on that. I know that one of this resident may end up coming to the Planning and Zoning Committee to have further discussions on that. And so I just wanted to make you guys aware and hopefully have some discussions on that.
President Smith, this is Jim Matuzak. I also received probably the same letter that you received. And since that time, I've been aware of similar situations throughout the city. It's everywhere. 6 feet is not very tall. So I would hope that we could find some way to soften the language in those rules, because if we're going to hold one person to 6 feet, we've got to issue probably at least 100 letters.
But I think that one of actually there's another person, I know what letter you're talking about, but I had another communication on it. And this person indicated as well that there's some screening that's utilized within our parks that are not within the
Well, our parking lot over here that we've been talking about using has got 12-foot arborvitae screening on it.
So just something I think that we need to have in the conversation. If we're going to have a consistent application, should be consistent. If not, we need to look and see what we can do. As a tree city, I think it's important to look at other options that we can.
And Jonathan, this is Tim McCarthy. The landscaper types are telling them that if you push it down to 6 feet, they may not survive.
It's going to greatly damage some of the trees that are utilized for this.
I suppose it matters how tall they are right now before you cut them. If they're just someone South Boundary, they're 20 feet. If you cut 14 feet off of them.
Some of those communications are sent to the administration as well, and
Just puzzle how that would become a problem now.
People are getting enforcement letters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's really what's driving some of this. That's what's triggered it, right?
Okay.
So hopefully it's something that the Planning and Zoning Committee can look at.
I made a note.
Other than that, there's nothing else from my report. I know Councilwoman Bourne, you had a few things you would like to add.
I so appreciate that, President Smith. I have a couple questions and then some thoughts. Why does the administration want the legislation we are to consider tonight to be passed as emergency measures? I feel it is appropriate for all of us to remember the recommendation previously issued by Ohio Attorney General Yost. Now is not the time to enact legislation unrelated to the instant emergency that is better reserved for the normal operations of government. And he had written that on March 11th, 2020.
Sure. You
I'm
are,
not sure we're out there. You have about 6 pieces of legislation in front of you.
Three
I think
emergencies.
3 are set for emergencies, 3 are actually non-emergencies. The 3 that are in front of you as emergencies would be the bond refinancing, that's your annual financing legislation. You also have, as emergencies, the ordering of CART mosquito control supplies. I'll go back to bond financing. You have a sale date in May, which will be prior to the next meeting. That's why that's put on as an emergency. The CART mosquito supplies, that's a program that runs for several months, but it starts in May typically. So we're just looking to free up our supplies. We didn't have a meeting the beginning of April, on April 7th, so that's why it's based on as an emergency. And then if I remember right, the last one would be
The resurfacing.
the resurfacing. So that would be our annual 2020 resurfacing project. Again, that is one that we had our bid opening at an earlier April meeting. That would just be able to get, if it passed as an emergency, it would be effective immediately, and we could go ahead and get a contract signed and start that paving sooner than later. In 2019, we explained to City Council that we had instituted a new program that creating EDL to do our design work on a 24-month schedule to allow us to start these projects earlier in the year than later, so that city administration is speaking to get that project.
I would just add that all of these items, I appreciate that council has been willing to move forward with these. For example, the notes issues. I know that the finance director has spoken with the president or the chair of the finance committee. That happens every year. We decided it was better not to, the committee decided it's better not to have a meeting, but we can still move forward with this. So I appreciate all of council's cooperation and that dialogue between administration staff and council members.
Thank you.
Do you have another question?
No, I'm ready to move along.
All right, thank you very much. Committee reports, Finance Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Mack, and this is Jim Matuzak. Ms. Moore, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think it's important that we understand why we are asked not to do emergency measures, but at the same time, I think we need to look at it on a case-by-case study rather than just not passing anything on an emergency measure. And I bring that up again because I have one piece of legislation tonight that is time sensitive and it kind of has to be done on an emergency basis, which is why I suggest maybe we do it on a case-by-case basis. So I'm going to get into that. Before I address my legislation, I'm going to ask Mr. Krebs, our Director of Finance, if he can state with any confidence, to the best of his knowledge, do we know what the due dates are going to be for the first and second quarter Perrysburg estimated income tax payments, since the filing of the actual returns have been postponed to July 15th? Do we know what our estimated income tax payments that otherwise would be due in April and June are going to be due? Do we know that? And if so, can we put it on our website for the residents?
Well, honestly, I am not 100% certain personally. I know that the state auditor moved the filing date for the annual return to July 15th. I don't know, Laura, are you aware of any change in the quarterly estimate date? I am not aware of the change.
I know what the IRS has done. I know what Ohio has done with respect to the first quarter, but not the second quarter, which is, if they don't change, it would be due before the first quarter now. And so I'm not asking for the answer tonight, but if we can find an answer and give some guidance to the people in the city and put it on the website, because my phone's ringing all the time, like, when are these due? And I'm like,
I will, this is Auditor out there, I will look at that.
Okay.
I know when they did the first quarterly, and by not moving the second one, now the second quarterly would be prior to the first quarter.
Right. And so people are confused.
I don't believe in House Local 71, they changed the second quarterly, but obviously, I know there's movement to do that.
If you don't mind, Councilman Smith, just have a quick question or a thought on that as well. If there's a lot of questions on this at this point, would it be appropriate for us to not waive penalties for the businesses who don't file them during this time?
Mm-hmm.
And I know, if I understand correctly as well, on the estimates, they're usually based off of the prior year taxes, and those that haven't been filed,
There's a good chance they won't. There's a good chance they will not be based on the prior year's taxes this year.
From our tax commissioner, Mr. Barner, and that's all of council.
Yeah, and I think what you're also asking is that once we pin that down, we make sure the community knows.
Even if we don't know the answer, let the community know. We don't know the answer right now.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
We'll do that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I do not have a committee report. This is Councilman Matuzak again. I do not have a committee report because we have not met since the last time. I do have one piece of legislation, and since I don't have a committee report, which I normally would have, we would look at this piece of legislation at that committee. I don't have a report to bring everyone else up to speed on what has been discussed regarding this piece of legislation. So if I might, I'll read real quick. I'm going to read Ms. Alkire's legislative summary for the benefit of those here and anyone that's listening in that doesn't get the benefit of a committee report that we don't have, so that they'll know what we're doing, because it's a pretty significant piece of legislation. So I want people to know why we're doing this tonight and why it's an emergency. So I have a piece of legislation tonight. I'm going to shortly introduce ordinance 4-2020. Ordinance 4-2020 authorizes the payment of $1 million towards the fire station construction debt and repackages the remaining balance of $3 million in bond anticipation notes. By way of background, in Ordinance 20-2019, the City Council authorized the payment of $2 million on the original $6 million debt financing for the fire station construction. As a result, $4 million in bond anticipation notes remained. The 2020 budget has anticipated a total payment of $4 million towards the remaining balance of the fire station. In other words, our 2020 budget that we have right now anticipated paying off the balance of all of the bond anticipation notes. On March 10th, 2020, Finance Director Krebs communicated with the City Council regarding the debt and this legislation. Under the current circumstances, the administration has elected to pay down $1 million and keep the remaining $3 million in the bank in the event that the city might need the extra cash on hand. Due to the lack of committee meetings in the month of April, this item is being presented directly to the City Council tonight. Correspondence from bond counsel has been included as a supplement to this legislative summary for members of council. The financial review, the 2020 budget anticipated the payment of the remaining balance of the fire station debt issuance. This legislation will authorize $1 million payment and will provide for the sale of $3 million in bond anticipation notes on May 7th, 2020, which is the reason for the emergency measure tonight. Following the sale, the remaining principal amount of the debt will be the $3 million. So that's why we're doing this tonight, and we're doing it as an emergency measure. So I would like to introduce Ordinance 4-2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. McChesney, Ms. McChesney.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 4-2020. Providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $3 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of a new fire station, together with all related appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I move that Ordinance 4-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I have something I'd like to make mention of. This is Councilwoman Deborah Bourne. Before we issue bonds, we should be sure of the actual rate we will be receiving given the uncertain state of the economy and the fact that the federal government will likely be issuing a great number of additional bonds to pay for the COVID-19 relief?
Not exactly sure what we're looking for. We expect the interest rate on these notes to be somewhere in the 1.5% to 2% range, but they will be going out for competitive bids on May 20th, something in that range.
If I may, Dave, I was referring to the bonds.
Okay, well, there are no bonds on these. These are bond anticipation notes. They are notes that we issue with the anticipation that we will someday issue bonds. But the truth.
That's what I'm talking about.
Ms. Bourne, this is Jim Matuzak.
Yes.
This legislation allows the city to go out and issue notes in the amount of $3 million. They're anticipation notes. If we were to issue a bond, we would have that option in June 1st of next year to issue a bond, which is why this year we have the option to issue bonds at June 1st. But if we issue these notes prior to that, then we don't need to issue those bonds. And the reason for that is so that we can do precisely what we had planned on doing tonight prior to this COVID virus, is pay them all off early, and issuing the notes annually like this gives us the flexibility to do that more easily, which is why we're doing it the way we've done it. And we've done it that way in the past, and it's always worked out to the benefit of the city to do it that way. I think I understand your point, the difference in the interest rate,
Yes.
and the bonds and the notes, but you want to take the long view, but at the short term, you want to keep your short-term options open. And I think that's why the mayor, I want to speak for the mayor, but I think that's why he's holding back right now, because we can always come back next year and pay off the balance of the $3 million if we are inclined to do so.
I would just follow that. I was the chair of the finance committee for Jim, and I think he articulated exactly what my position always was with issuance of notes that puts us in a good position to pay down debt as quickly as possible. And we had anticipated, and along with council's cooperation, consistent with the longstanding policy of paying off long-term debt as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, we were going to apply and pay down the entire fire station. That situation changed with the virus scenario, and nobody actually knows what the revenue streams are going to be. So this just seemed like the fiscally conservative approach. And hopefully things improve. And next year, with cooperation of council, we would again try and pay down the entire amount.
Well, thank you, Councilman Matuzak, for your thoughts, and thank you.
Councilman.
If I could interject, this is Councilman Coleman. I'm obviously going to support this, or maybe I shouldn't say it's obvious, but I think it's a smart move. I appreciate Mr. Krupp's working on this, and the finance committee and the mayor. I just would like some clarification as to why we went with $1 million as opposed to $2 million, and then $2 million in bond anticipation notes. If you could just clarify that for me, because I'm not seeing it addressed in any of the notes I read.
That was a decision of the administration, primarily because we didn't know exactly how much to keep in the bank, and having some funds in the bank seemed like the prudent course to take at the present time. So that was kind of a decision based on the current, could have been a different number, but we felt that this was appropriate, a significant amount to pay down the debt, also a significant amount of cash on hand.
Councilman Smith here, just as a reminder to all of us that are present, is to make certain that we announce who we are for the listeners. More seconding or commenting, we need to ensure that the listeners know who is talking.
Jim Matuzak. Corey, you haven't been on council too long. I've not been here anywhere near as long as these gentlemen down here, but this is the first time I've ever had the administration ask me for authorization to not spend money. So it is rather obvious from my standpoint where I'm going to vote on this one. But whether it's the $1 million, the $2 million, the $3 million, the $4 million, I think the notes have been done in $1 million increments. So the notes are $100,000 increments, but we usually go by the million. We round it off because we're fortunate enough to be able to do that here in Perrysburg. And we can always pay them off next year. The difference between the $3 million not being paid off and that interest rate is really, it's not significant.
Jim, if I can jump in here.
Sure.
This money is not being appropriated for anything else.
Correct.
At this point, this money is just going to be kept in the bank account essentially as an ending balance. So unless something really goes bad, this money will be just sitting there waiting to be used when we start working on the next budget in 2020.
And we will get our 0.00025% interest
Yeah.
on this money while it's in the bank. So, I guess while we're still in the discussion stage, then I guess I'd like to raise the issue of whether or not we need to amend the budget to. Do we amend both? If we're going to amend the budget for this to take it out of this line item to show that it goes to the ending balance, which we all trust that's where it's going to go. But do we need to amend the budget? And if so, do we need to amend our projected revenues as well? Because that's kind of why we're doing this, because we're anticipating that the revenues are going to go down.
Councilman Matuzak, I agree with you. I think that we should be looking at making some cuts in the budget. I agree.
The short answer to Jim's question, yes, we will need to do a budget amendment for you. If nothing else, it'll change the transfer from the general fund, it'll change the revenue coming into the bond retirement fund, and it'll change the expenditures going out of the bond retirement fund. It's really housekeeping stuff,
Right.
But yes, we will need to do that just as a housekeeping measure. We talked briefly about whether we need to do it before this meeting. It's kind of like the cemetery meeting. It's one of the things we just need to take care of. I don't know that it needs to be done at this moment in time, but.
We rest assured, council, we will not be spending the money. The money is going to be sitting in that account. And
I have,
yeah.
And that's
we won't spend that money. That's not my concern.
But no, that's a good point. We do that.
I would like to, this is Councilwoman Deborah Bourne, and let's see, just wanted to add one quick thing here. I think that we need to be looking at the essential things that we need to be spending on: police, fire, the people that do the garbage, and the water and the sewer. I think we need to be focusing on those areas, and then the maintenance of the parks. And I think everything else is kind of not to be considered at the moment.
Just kind of as a general statement, I know that the administration has asked the leadership of the team to look at their budgets, and we are already started a process of if anything doesn't have to be spent, it isn't being spent. Long-term items are being postponed. Certainly, core functions, which is what Councilwoman Bourne just discussed, we are making sure that those are already all budgeted, and we're still doing that. But there are some items that some purchases and some other things that can be postponed, and we are taking that into account.
Yeah. This is Jim Matuzak. Having read your letters to the CPD board, I assumed you were doing the same with the city, which is why I hadn't brought it up. I figured you were doing the same thing. So, thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Thank you.
Yes, roll call. Thank you.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
And Ms. Maternity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Mack, and I would like to just say that for now, I'll keep my next finance committee meeting as regularly scheduled, and if something changes between now and then, we'll
Very good.
accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The service committee.
This is Councilwoman Attorney. We did not have a meeting last month, but I do have a couple of issues that I'd like to, ordinances I'm going to bring before council tonight. Prior to doing that, since they're all going to be, I'm all asking them to be passed as emergency measures. I'd like to clarify something that was said earlier in the meeting in regards to a letter put out by David Yost, Ohio Attorney General, and he says about emergency measures, excuse me for a minute, and this is a direct reading from his letter. Now is not the time to rely on the guidance in order to enact legislation unrelated to the instant emergency that is federal reserved for the normal operations of government, e.g. to pass new taxes or enact new regulatory schemes. In light of that, I would like to offer up my first I'd like to introduce, ordinance 4-2020.
Excuse me, Ms. Materney. I appreciate your comments. May I request, if possible, that you split up the resolutions, please?
I am. They're all individual.
Thank you.
Ordinance 4-2020 and ordinance
No,
providing for.
hold on. It's
Oh,
resolution 21.
Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot to turn the page. This whole format has me discombobulated. Okay, resolution 21-2020, resolution authorizing an agreement with Powers Paving and Asphalt Inc. and amount not to exceed $1,059,000 and $188.03. Recommend and move that the rules be suspended, allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third reading. I move that resolution 21-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Hey, Arjun? Yeah. We need a second on the
Second.
for introduction. Thank you.
Councilwoman,
No.
second.
This is Councilwoman Bourne. Don't we all have to vote on this first to put this out on the table before we vote?
We're
Yes, correct.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Thank you. We are working through the process here. Okay, so we have it's introduced and we have a second.
Correct.
And so we need a roll call on that.
Introduction.
Right.
Okay, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yeah.
Okay, resolution number 21, 2020, authorizing an agreement with Powers Paving and Asphalt Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $1,059,178.03.
So it's being.
Councilwoman, we need a motion on passage.
Can we have discussion as well?
Well, we need a motion first.
Got it?
I move that resolution 21-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
I don't think it needs to be passed as an emergency. Can we just move it for passage? All right.
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Attorney, you had commented, I think if I heard you right, you commented at the beginning of your section that all four of your pieces of legislation were emergencies, and I don't think they are.
Yeah, it's the first part.
Yeah, you're right.
For a second.
All right, so
Yeah,
now we have
I'm
first.
sorry. Just do it.
That's all right. No worries. A first and a second, and now we have discussion on a resolution 2120.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This is Councilwoman Bourne. I just wanted to say that I will vote for the resolution 21-2020 at the appropriate time, and I want to go on record as stating that it should not be an emergency measure.
The law director is going to speak.
Law Director Alkire, this is actually not presented as an emergency measure. I think in our previous discussions there was some confusion. If passed this evening, would not go into effect for 30 days.
Okay, I
All
think
right.
there was confusion with the notes that were presented about that.
Or the notes were a separate issue. This 2020 is being passed not just for passage and will not take effect for 30 days. Is there any other discussion?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Okay, roll call, this is for passage. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yeah.
Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution 22.
20-2020.
Yes, and I owe you guys an apology about that. I do only have two that are emergency measures. Thank you, Councilman Matuzak, for pointing that out to me. And 22-2020 is the first one. And I would like to introduce resolution 2020-22-2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only and dispense with the second, third, and reading.
This is Barry Van Huzen, and I second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Okay. Ms. Word,
This is Councilwoman Deborah Bourne, yes.
Mr. Cool,
Yes.
Ms. Maternity,
Yes.
Mr. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Newsom.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we need motions for passage, please.
I move that resolution 22-2020 be passed for emergency measure, as an emergency measure.
This is Councilwoman.
You didn't read it all the way.
I got stuff. I'm pushing.
Councilwoman, we made an error at our end, so we're going to correct that. Go ahead.
Okay, I need to read the resolution. Here it goes. Resolution number 22-2020, authorizing the city to purchase mosquito control supplies from Clark at a cost not to exceed $57,065.80, declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Passage?
Councilwoman Attorney, can you please?
We need a motion for passage, Councilwoman.
Okay. I move that resolution 22-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Barry Van Huzen, second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Okay, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Maternity,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Matuka,
Yes.
and Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
And move the rules be suspended to allow the reading by its number and title only, and to dispense with the second, third reading. But this is an emergency measure, so I'm thinking that I don't have to do that.
Correct. We just
Okay.
voted for-
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Second.
Barry Van Huzen, second.
Roll call?
Okay, roll call. Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Ms. Maternity,
Yes.
Mr. Matuka,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 23-2020, authorizing an agreement with North Coast Regional Council of Park Districts for the acquisition of in lieu fee stream mitigation credits necessary to satisfy the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency stream mitigation requirements under Section 401 of the Clean Water Act for stream impact resulting from the construction of Phase 4 of the Maumee River multi-use path.
Easy for you to say.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilwoman Deborah Bourne. I have discussion.
Well, let's wait till we need a motion for passage by Councilwoman Martinez.
I move that resolution 23-2020 be passed.
Barry Van Huzen, second.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, what exactly is the purpose of the credits you want to purchase? And there is no mention of cost that is written in this resolution.
Law Director Alkire. But the first question is, what is the purpose of these credits? When multi-use path phase 4 was originally envisioned, at that time, the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency did not require any stream mitigation to be conducted in that area. Now, what stream mitigation in my area, I'll say very limited knowledge, not an engineer. When you're putting in an impervious surface, that is going to obviously not absorb runoff and streams, we have to do something to protect our streams. Very, very general definition. But the Environmental Protection Agency does have a calculation as to what surfaces, the amount of surface they were putting in equate to a certain amount of mitigation that needs to be done. Since this project was designed, we were recently notified that the EPA had changed their regulations and they would require tree mitigation on the project. And when I say we were recently notified, we were notified at the recent early that this was going to be necessary. We had a couple of consultants on this project and law force associates, and one of them that I referenced in my summary, had provided us with 3 options that we could potentially satisfy the EPA mitigation concerns with. However, each one of these options requires EPA approval. What our consultants did was they gauged the likelihood of EPA approval with each option. Option 1 is actually the one that made it to legislation that's in front of you tonight. There is a cost to this. It is cited in section 1 of your legislation. It is $45,000. The Northwest Regional Park District, in cooperation with the Department of Transportation and the EPA, both state agencies on this project, offer what's called a tree mitigation program statewide. You could go to the Northwest Regional Central Park District and you can read about how they protect wetlands and what mitigation that they use with. By offering these tree mitigation credits for the cost of, in this case, $45,000, because it's 200 credits are necessary for a 2-to-1 ratio. 2-to-1 ratio is what we feel that is at a cost of $200 per credit. I think is what it came down to. That gives us the $45,000. So I know that's not, it may be clear as mud. I do apologize for that. Not being an engineer. But the options are presented to us and that we consider for fewer mitigation credits that would then result in additional plantings that would be necessary along this path. And in that situation, in working in cooperation with the state and in the area where we were at, we're not sure that those plantings even would be permissible, and we would not be able to achieve the mitigation that the EPA is looking for. We actually were told that we had a less likelihood of approval on option 3. Option 3 would have been no assistance in achieving mitigation, and the city would have to do it all. I'm not sure, but I believe that's the part. Yeah, there would be more plantings required in lieu of a fee. Option 2 was the very.
Can you speak up, please? This is Councilwoman Bourne.
So what we have of the 3 options, the first option, which is the option that we were presenting before you, is a fee-based option. The second option is partial fee, partial planting. Third option is planting only. And given the area that we were looking to put this whole thing in, which is a lower level behind Fort Meg, across Crooked Creek, which has a known old settlement in that vicinity area, it is highly unlikely they will allow us to dig up a variety of catchings and plant trees. So we're looking at the fee-only option. These dollars go to North Coast Park District. They sort of use those dollars to do mitigation within their jurisdiction. We won't be spending money on anything, nor will the state of Ohio.
So, Councilwoman Bourne, if I can speak, this is Jim Matuzak.
Hello.
Hi. This is directed at anyone that wants to answer the question. I'm gonna try to say what I think I just heard, and I want someone to tell me I'm wrong. Because we're putting in this 4th section of the multi-use path, and the EPA, in their wisdom, has decided that they're going to change the regulations, and that it creates a potential adverse effect on the runoff from the rain, I suppose, that will land on the multi-use path and drain into streams. I guess we have a stream somewhere. Are they telling us that if we pay them off $45,000, we don't have to do anything to change the actual water that falls on the path and runs into the streams that they're worried about, as long as we give them $45,000? They're not going to use that money to actually try to mitigate the problem that they're saying that we're going to create by having a multi-use path and having the rain run off somewhere differently. It's just, the name Corleone comes to mind.
Councilman Matuzak, this is Councilwoman Bourne. I can say that, having looked at the information that I have and looking through what I saw, I don't think purchasing, I'm wondering why we are purchasing on something like this right now, why we are even considering it with the financial situation that we are currently in due to the COVID virus. And if you go back there and you take a look and you see what's going on, I think it really is a very silly thing, and it will cause erosion issues, and it will also cause runoff from the petroleum, from the tar that they want to put down. I mean, it's just, to me, it does not make sense to do something like this. So you're basically ripping up an area that's beautiful there, and then you're going to put tar down, which is 10 feet wide, which is essentially a road. And then I read where the Ohio Department of Natural Resources indicated that they did not recommend this because of the petroleum runoff that would go into the river.
This might,
Strayer.
go ahead.
Just to clarify, my understanding is that the stream mitigation credits are required not because of the multi-use path itself, but rather the crossing of one point of a stream, Crooked Creek, with the multi-use path. That is what we're paying stream mitigation credits for. We'll be inserting a culvert into Crooked Creek that will then have fill around it, and that is what we are mitigating, if you will, with these credits. So
If you take a look at Crooked Creek, as you're referring to, you will see that the culverts already exist. They've been there for years. I think that this is another case of something that we should not be looking at. And as I stated before,
Councilwoman Bourne, could we just, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting and I do apologize. The administrator was finishing and then I think Councilwoman Martini had something to say, and then after that we'll go back to you, I think. So if you can finish, the administrator.
As I was saying, that is my understanding. There are several culverts perhaps along Crooked Creek, but the point at which the path is crossing Crooked Creek, there is not a culvert. And as a reminder, the point of the pathway has been approved by the State of Ohio Preservation Office, SHPO, ODOT, ODNR, and probably another handful of agencies that are out there, including the Army Corps of Engineers. So this is the preferred pathway that the state wanted. Down there along the river, as well as crossing the river. So again, this just came to our attention about a month ago, and this is a new requirement by the EPA. In previous regulations, if you were impacting less than 300 feet of a creek, you did not have to do any mitigation, but they changed that rule.
Okay. Do you want to wait till we get the other people? I'll give you the floor, or do you want to go first?
I prefer to just get my answer out.
Go ahead.
As I get older, my short-term memory fades, and I'll forget what I asked.
Julie, no, Mr. Matuzak's going to speak first. Hold on.
Thank you. This is Jim Matuzak again. Thanks for the questions, Ms. Bourne, and thank you, Ms. Cabot, for addressing some of her questions. I'm not sure if my question was addressed because it still sounds to me like we're paying $45,000 to buy off the EPA to let us do what we want to do, and they're not going to take that $45,000 to mitigate the problem that they say that we're creating.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can use that money anywhere in the region.
OEPA is not going to require us to mitigate anything that they might find an issue at this location, but it sounds like they use those dollars to then create cleaner stream
Somewhere else.
in the state line.
So my interpretation is exactly that. We're paying them off to allow us to let us do this.
Yeah. So this is Councilwoman.
I'm not accusing to be defensive because I'm not accusing the administration of anything. I'm accusing the EPA of extorting $45,000 out of the city of Perrysburg so we can build a multi-use path. Is that what is happening?
And they're just looking to follow the rules to make that happen. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Councilwoman Bourne.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's comments, but I would like to add that I view this as just basically we're paying $45,000 to a pollute, and I think that's ridiculous. And a waste of extra dollars.
All right, Councilwoman Attorney, do you have something to add, or?
Yeah, I have a couple things to add. First of all, the Ohio EPA has been doing this to various like ODOT for years. They've if we touch certain areas, we have to either pay them to recreate wetlands in other areas or give them money to be able to do that. So this is not new. It's just being drilled down to a local level, in my opinion. Second of all, This is not additional funding to this project. This, correct me if I'm wrong, Bridget, this is not additional funding. This is funding that was already part of a project that this funding is encumbered as part of this project. And third, it's not going to create any more pollution than what's being created right now from the runoff from the road. And I recommend that we pass it.
I
Substantial portion of that question, as stated in the legislative summary, we did have, I'm sorry, this is moderator out there. We did have $45,000 within the 2020 budget, and that was originally budgeted for right-of-way acquisition through partnership with SHPO, Department of Administrative Services, Department of Transportation. There was a transfer of ownership that did not require us to acquire that right-of-way, so that $45,000 would not be used for that purpose, and that's for the funding for this. I'm not presenting that to you as justification as to why we should do it, but I do want to make it very clear we are not adding additional dollars within the 2020 budget and asking for passage of the
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just kind of like to sum up. I want to drive my point home here, okay? First of all, it's not directed at the administration. I'm not saying the administration is spending money foolishly at all. That's not what I'm saying here.
You have a
I heard council member, you're welcome, attorney, give an opinion in response to what Councilwoman Bourne said about pollution. And her opinion was, and I respect both of these council members, but Ms. Maternity's long career with ODOT, I respect that career and her opinion. And she said, in response to Councilwoman Bourne, this does not create any additional pollution. But yet the EPA wants us to pay $45,000 for the additional pollution that we're going to create, and then take our money and spend it somewhere probably outside of the city of Perrysburg to fix someone else's problem with our taxpayers' money simply because they can. And that's the problem I have with it. I just want to do to everybody. That's what's
doing. I appreciate it.
what's happening.
Any other discussion on that topic? I didn't mean to cut anybody off there.
That's okay. This Councilwoman Attorney, I would like to clarify what they mean by stream mitigation. They're talking about not pollution's part of it, but also soil runoff and that type of thing that how do I put this? Might slightly alter the stream bed going through that culvert. If that makes sense. That's part of it. It's not just the pollution. It's like everything in that particular micro area, if that makes sense. If that helps you, Councilman Matuzak.
Yeah, but my concern is, this is Councilman, my concern is the money we're paying isn't going to be used to fix any of those problems that they're telling us we might be creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
That's why they call it mitigation.
I think we'll call. Is there any other discussion? I think we're discussing. So I think we're calling the question. I'll call the question. All right. Thank you. We'll call the question.
Okay, so we're ready for a roll call on the passage of Resolution number 23, 2020. Okay, having said that, we'll start with Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Attorney.
Yeah.
Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that discussion. Appreciate it. Duly noted. Councilwoman, we have one more, Resolution 24.
Okay, I didn't hear her say I would like to put it out there for passage.
Oh, I was just, we're just introducing it at the moment. I was trying to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Resolution 24-2020.
Oh, wait a minute. 23. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Councilwoman. I'm sorry. I did not hear you introduce Resolution 23 for
That
That was what we were discussing.
Councilwoman Bourne, that was what we just discussed. That was the vote we
I
just
vote
took.
no. I'm changing my vote. I vote no.
I didn't. So duly noted.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Okay.
we're now to introduction of Resolution 24, 2020.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And no, that's fine. And move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only and dispense with the second and third reading.
Councilman Smith, seconds.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Gould,
Yes.
Ms. Maternity,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 24, 2020. Final resolution expressing cooperation with the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation for resurfacing of State Route 25 from State Route 582 to Roasting Road, ODOT PID number 95722, and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolution 24-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Councilman Smith, seconds.
Discussion.
I have this quick question, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Is all of this in the city? This is Councilwoman Bourne.
Mm,
Good evening, this is Bridget Gaddis, City Administrator. This is this project that has the case number 95722 is the ODOT project number for Roachton Road to 582. What will be paid inside the city limits will be from essentially 5 Point Road south or north to Roachton Road. That would be the project limits within inside the city, and our share of that cost is proportionate to those lane miles.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Okay, this is the roll call for passage, correct? Okay, roll call for passage. Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen,
Yes.
Ms. Maternity,
yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Goulder,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Do you want to
That-
go ahead?
Thank you guys all for bearing with me. Under normal situations, this is a little bit interesting, and in this situation, it's been extremely so. My next service committee meeting will be May 25th at 5:30, and that is all I have, and thank you very much.
Is it May 27th to confirm? 25th is Memorial Day.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 27th. 27th, thank you. I was looking at the wrong calendar.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Safety Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Barry Van Hoosen, and I would just like to reiterate what our good mayor and fine president has said. Just really proud of the first responders and the other public employees that are servicing this community. Just doing very, very proud. Our next scheduled safety committee meeting is April 28th at 6 p.m. And I believe there's only one item. That committee meeting may well be delayed, or that item may well come before council at our next council meeting. So we're going to keep the meeting scheduled, but we may move it.
Thank you. Recreation Committee?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would like to report, if anybody was planning on going to the PRAC committee, that Jessica Kemp, who is the chairman of PRAC, has decided to cancel the meeting. And that's usually the first Monday of the month. So that's May 4th is canceled. On May 11th, unless circumstances regarding the COVID virus continue to get worse, we will be having a recreation committee on May 11th at 6:30 p.m. And I would also like to thank everybody in public service for what they've been doing with the parks. I'd like to thank the police, the fire, the water and sewer, and the EMS for all they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and zoning?
No report, Your Honor. This is Tim McCarthy. We have not met since our last meeting. As Jim did with the Finance Committee, I think we'll say for now we're holding our regular meeting date in May, but I suspect that the first meeting of council in May will finalize the date, depending on what the governor does with the stay-at-home order. End of report.
Thank you. Personnel?
Councilman Corey Coolman. Nothing to report on personnel. I'll follow the lead of our next meeting being the regularly scheduled in May dates. Do want to, I guess, touch base with Administrator Cabot about if she needs to bring anything up about safety personnel or a position there.
Bridget Cabot, the administrator, and I think what Councilman Coleman is referring to is the safety coordinator position that was approved as a part-time position in the 2020 budget. Administration is having some difficulties in locating a part-time safety coordinator that is interested in the position. We had several candidates who were interviewed a couple months ago, and they all indicated to us that this position is not a part-time position. It can't be done justice and safely as a part-time position. So we want to come back to the Personnel Committee and bring in John Eckel, Kelly Shelton, and discuss the possibility of making this into a full-time safety coordinator position. But honestly, the circumstances that we are under, we are monitoring the budget and following that closely to make sure what our revenues look like and our expenditures. So this is something we would like to move forward with, but now may not be the time. And as Councilman Coleman is okay with this, we can just keep that on the schedule and see what transpires over the course of the next several weeks. And we'll stay in touch with you to see if you want to have the committee and just begin those discussions, knowing that we're not quite sure where we're going to end up on the revenue side of things.
Councilman Coolman again. I think that sounds like a great idea. We'll keep that on the agenda for our next meeting. I also kind of want to let council know that I would like to bring it to the Personnel Committee's agenda. I would like to potentially look into a holiday for the upcoming election day in November. I think it's probably an appropriate time. I think, as you may have noticed, our primary was canceled for in-person voting. And part of the struggle there was we did not have a lot of young people that are volunteering to work the polls. So I would like, at least at a committee level, to explore the possibility of potentially a half-day or full-day holiday for city workers and potentially the bargained positions as well. I know those negotiations are taking place this year, so you can expect that to be on one of our Personnel Committee agendas as well to explore that option. So I would appreciate any feedback any other council members have on that issue. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Public utilities?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do not have a report as we have not met since February. I had to think back that far now. There is one item that I do have on the agenda here, and taking the lead is Councilman Matuzak. I'm going to read a portion of the subject matter and background prior to bringing this for introduction to give some sense of what this is, as we have not had the discussion on this at the committee level. So the only item we have is Resolution 25-2020. It authorizes acceptance of a proposal of new gen strategies and solutions and authorizes an agreement to complete the water and sewer rate study. The city solicited proposals from qualifying firms for the completion of the rate study. The request for the proposals and final ranking explanations are included as a supplement to this legislative summary. As outlined in the request for the proposals, the purpose of the study is to ensure utility rates cover the true cost of providing water and sewer services to our customers. This includes, but is not limited to, wastewater treatment costs, wholesale purchase of finished water, O&M and equipment repair and replacement costs, maintaining appropriate working capital and cash balances, as well as meeting the debt service requirements and capital improvements needs. In doing so, the city sought to ensure that the proposed rate fee structure provides the equitable treatment of all charges on future and current users. So with that being said, I would like to introduce Resolution 25-2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only and dispense with the second and third read.
Matuzak, second.
Roll call?
Okay, roll call. Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. Maternity,
Yeah,
Mr. Machuga,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
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 Resolution number 25, 2020. Accepting the proposal and authorizing an agreement with New Gen Strategies and Solutions for the completion of a water and sewer rate study for the city of Claysburg in an amount not to exceed $44,300.
Thank you. I, Jonathan Smith, move that Resolution 25-2020 be passed.
Matuzak, second.
Discussion?
I have a quick question. This is Councilwoman Bourne. On Resolution 25-2020, I'm wondering why we're looking at spending money on this at the moment when we have issue with not knowing how much money is going to be coming in, money that will be coming in from the taxpayers. So I don't know why we're considering all these expenditures right now.
Councilwoman Bourne, I know that Ms. Elkhart will speak on this as well. I know that this is a routine process that the city has gone through about 5 or 6 years ago. I want to say right when I first got on council, this was coming in as a rate study, and about every 5 to 6 years, we have to do these to ensure that we have the cost appropriate. I think the goal is as well to make sure that we may not be potentially overcharging or undercharging, whatever that may be, but to charge what the actual cost is and not what the estimated cost is going to be to deliver water and to have the sewage taken away from the homes.
I appreciate your thoughts. I guess my concern is, and I understand that the need for something like this, but I don't understand why we need to have it at the moment while we have the problem with the COVID-19. And everything I read and I see, it seems like it's getting worse, rather than better. So I guess I wonder why we're going to be spending $44,300 when we could possibly wait on that.
Law Director Alkire. It's a good question, Councilwoman Bourne. What I will point out is we're looking at a study that's going to take a couple of months to actually be completed. We would like to be able to come back to council early fall, September, and be able to present you the results of those studies. The reason I cite to state is that it's going to be imperative that we need to adjust our water and sewer rates. The council takes legislative action to do so. We would want to be doing so in the event that it's necessary prior to January 1 of 2021. I also would recommend that council consider free reading for any rate modifications. If we can get you a study right in this summer, beginning of fall, that would be time to digest it, be able to enjoy free reading rules, be able to notify the public, and be as transparent as possible. So we are not looking to spend any money that was not originally budgeted, but it is going to take some time to get this process going.
I would just add to that, and I know that actually I sent an email out to staff today, and I carbon copied John as president of the council, is also head of public utilities. One of the most commonly asked questions I'm sure council and the administration get asked is, why are water rates so high? Why are sewer rates so high? What are those charges? So I certainly don't think we want to delay at all in evaluating how best to do that, to determine a rate that's fair, that pays and complies with the requirements we need to do to provide the sewage and the water for our clients and our customers, and the businesses in this community. So it is a process, but I do know that that is something that is often asked, and we're going to start an effort to try and make sure that people understand what goes into that. We want the community to be involved with that, and I know that this council wants to be as transparent as possible through that process. So it's going to take some time. So I think we have to move forward. If there's no other discussion, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call on the passage. Nixon?
Yes.
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 Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Duzak?
Yes.
Ms. Maternity?
Yes.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Our next scheduled meeting is going to be May 27th at 6:30 p.m. I did speak with Ms. Gotzi, and at this time there is no items on the agenda for this month, so we will be canceling the May 27th, or not May 27th, the April 22nd meeting, and holding our next meeting on May 27th at 6:30 p.m. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other business to come before council?
Yes,
Please,
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilwoman Bourne. Under other business, I noticed that Shannon, our public information officer for the city and working for the administration, indicated that she would like to meet with all the city councilmen individually regarding rebranding for the city. And my question is, why are we rebranding the city, number one? Why is there a need for that? Number two, I noticed where she indicated talking about Zoom and the information that Ms. Cabot sent out, our administrator, about the different platforms that can be used, indicated that there were problems with Zoom and the FBI had been investigating. So, and this is what Shana had mentioned she wanted to use with council. So I was kind of wondering why that was thought about.
Well, the virtual meeting was we're trying to set those up with all the council members to discuss whether to proceed and how best to proceed. I'm aware of those issues with Zoom, and a lot of those deal with when they're set up in a public forum. If you're inviting people to come in, there has not been any real issues with internal or communications that are strictly controlled by the one or two people like you and Shannon or two or three other people from the administration. And also, if the city has purchased a license for Zoom, and that product does provide certain security that didn't exist and was the subject of some of and was an upgrade from what had previously happened. So we have investigated that. I am not an IT wizard, although I did say Holiday Inn Express. Gary and the IT people at the city have recommended this is a good way to proceed. I will also say in my day job with LMHA that the IT people there feel comfortable if certain precautions are taken, that it is a safe and secure way to communicate. So hopefully those can be arranged and we feel comfortable with that. Regarding the branding issue, this is just something that we've been discussing internally. We think there's some opportunities here. We also have looked at some of the things that how best to represent the city going forward, and it's something that we think is worth discussing. And we have some Shannon has worked on that, and we have some suggestions and some recommendations. But this process is something we want to make sure that council is aware of, that it gets a voice to be heard in the process. And so that's why we're reaching out to all the different council people with some ideas, and we hope that we get some good feedback on that, so we can move forward with some maybe some opportunities for the city as we go forward.
I will make mention on a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. I know that we have been voted the first year, I believe it was in 2018. The city of Perrysburg was voted #1 in Wallet Hub for the state of Ohio. Then following that, I believe, I want to say it was 2019, we were voted #2 in the state of Ohio. The reasons that I read and saw and heard from others was they move here because they like the heritage of the city. They like the downtown and they like the school system. And I think that we need to respect the values of the citizens and their thoughts and how they feel about those things.
Well, thank you. I think we all agree to all those things, and that's certainly going to be part of the process because I think we all, everyone on council, I don't speak for everyone on council, but I think we all treasure those things as part of what makes Perrysburg a great community. So those are certainly things we want to consider going forward.
Well, I can say that I agree with the citizens of Perrysburg and business owners. I love the community. I have loved it for many years. I've lived here 45 years. And I don't want to see what attracts people here. I can just come out and say ruined. So I would like to see it intact. And if we're going to do anything, that we should be doing something, we should be working on economic development and bringing some economic development into the city that will help mitigate taxes. And I know that may be difficult at the moment, but that's what I think we need to be looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Mack and Jim Matuzak. Thank you, Ms. Lauren.
You're welcome.
Mayor Mack, are there any additional variable costs associated with this?
No, not at this. I mean, there may at some point be some changing of letterhead or changing of those kind of things, or a copyright or something along those lines, but not a significant material cost that would have a negative impact. If not, that would have been brought up in the budget. So we look for, when the goal of this was to get council to get their input and before going forward to make sure that people felt comfortable with what we're trying to do.
Councilman Coleman, I believe, had something you want to mention other business.
Yeah, this is Councilman Coleman. Thank you, Jonathan. Just a couple things. I know I got some positive feedback I wanted to share with the administration on not being so quick to close off our river access during the walleye run. I know that several citizens I talked to are very thankful, and people throughout the area that you guys looked into that, provided support, made sure people were acting in a safe manner and continuing to allow that to happen. The other one, I had a citizen contact me, and I think this may go on potentially the safety committee's agenda at some point, but they would like the city to look into allowing golf carts that are properly registered. I know the Ohio Revised Code, and maybe Laura can provide more insight on this, but I believe the Ohio Revised Code allows for permitting golf carts on roadways that are under 35 miles an hour as long as they pass a proper safety inspection. I don't see anything in the charter that addresses that currently, but the city would, from my knowledge, the city would certainly be allowed to allow that on certain roadways that they deemed appropriate for that. So just wanted to share that so that potentially it could be steered to the correct committee for their attention.
Appreciate that.
And I have nothing other than that.
That is certainly that has been an issue that I think prior councils have looked into, but I think it's always appropriate to reevaluate things. So that can come back to this council as well, and it's certainly something that can be discussed.
Councilman Smith will make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you, everyone, very much for attending.
Aye.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.